Welcome to the Uncle's channel. Thanks for watching today. Let's talk about my top 5 retro games from 2024. Now, these are not games that came out in 2024 with a retro style or retro tilt about them, but rather games that came out in years past, or in some cases decades past, that I just simply discovered this year for the first time, or rediscovered as a classic that I need to sink a lot of hours into. And I am going through the entire Game Boy library of 951 games over the next, good lord, 18 years or so. I am on number 104 at the filming of this video, so I am making my way through it. So obviously some Game Boy games are going to end up on this list, but don't worry, the entire list is not Game Boy games that I discovered this year. But let's go ahead and dive into the top 5 retro games 2024. Now, I know I said I was only going to do the top 5, however, I really wanted to include a game I started years ago that I finished for the very first time in 2024, and that is going to be Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest Part 1 for the NES. Now, I started years ago on NES, I had like maps printed out for it, everything. I left the system on for days because I didn't really trust the save file on it, but I never actually finished the game. However, going through the Game Boy challenge here, I actually loaded it back up, went through the entire game on the Game Boy Color, and I have to say, like, I really had a blast going through it. It is a very straightforward RPG. It's very grindy. It's not going to be very complex, hardly in any way at all. You don't have a team. You have like one hero character. But there's something really relaxing about just playing a grindy one-character RPG that I just really enjoy chilling out to. And so it's not going to be your most complex Dragon Warrior game. I mean, Part 2, Part 3 both have their full party system. I'm excited to dive into Part 3 HD Remake. I recently got that for Christmas, and so I'm very excited to go through that game. But for Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest 1, even though I'm not going to put it in my top 5, I just simply couldn't make this list and not include it because, I don't know, just going back to finish it for the first time really did mean something special for me. And so, I don't know, honorable mention for Dragon Warrior Part 1. Now in 5th place is going to be a game called Mercenary Force for the original Game Boy. This is going to be pretty much a bullet hell auto-scroller game at its finest here, but you're not playing like in outer space in like a spaceship or underwater in a submarine or even machine at all. It takes place in feudal Japan, and you get to choose different warriors to have on your team. Like you can have a ninja or a priestess or a monk or a servant or a samurai, and I'm probably missing out some character classes here, but you get to basically form your team any ways you want, and every one of the characters has different individual attacks that they can shoot out from your little formation. But the coolest part about the game is you can actually change the shape of your formation to basically fit the environment best. Like you can do it in a straight line here, and all your shots are going to be focused on one particular area. You can do more like a diamond shape where you're going to sort of divide your shots up a little bit. You can do like a straight wall where you're sort of covering the entire area with one shot at a time. And so like every character has their own individual attack, and you can also choose how you want to go about moving throughout the level. I've never seen a game quite like this, and you also collect money. You can upgrade your character, you can swap your characters out, you can also get like a power up that allows you to turn into like a spirit monster and sort of go through and really attack and sort of take out all of the enemies on the screen. Some really cool inventive bosses in the game as well. I mean, the game is a one-of-a-kind game for the Game Boy Color, or I'm sorry, for the original Game Boy, and I've never played a game like it. I love side-scrollers, and if there was ever a hidden gem on the Game Boy, Mercenary Force would be that game. Now in 4th place, we're going to switch gears a little bit, and it's actually going to be a pinball game. So I guess it's not technically a video game or a retro game, but it is retro because it came out in like the early 80s. But it's a pinball game called Joust. Now it is based on the lore or the artwork or the art direction of the arcade game Joust, and so a lot of this art direction is going to look fairly familiar here in the pictures. But essentially it's 2 pinball tables in one, and you actually get to battle against a friend when you play the game. It's not meant to be played as a solo game. I guess you probably could play it as solo, but it's definitely meant to be played as a battle game for pinball, which is what I like most about this game in particular. Like, I've never been like a huge pinball fan in general, just simply getting a high score. When you put me battling against somebody trying to get a high score, I am 100% sucked into this game. Now, me and my buddy Jason came across it at a place called Game Galaxy here in Smyrna, Tennessee, and I tell you, we got just sucked into the game, and now when we go to Game Galaxy, we are literally going for one purpose, and that is to play Joust on the pinball. Now, you don't just simply play the game to try to knock the ball into the other person's hole or the goal there. You're actually just simply trying to get the highest score for your side and keep the ball on your side the longest that you possibly can. It has all the normal pinball stuff like multipliers and bonuses and pieces to knock down, and it's just a really fantastically designed game, especially considering it came out in like the 1980s, and they just don't make very many multiplayer pinball machines. And so Joust to me is just a fantastic game. If we could ever find one at a decent rate or decent price, we would 100% purchase it for ourselves just so we could play against each other. But I don't really know how much they go for, and they're also fairly rare. So Game Galaxy is where we will continue to go and play my number 4 on the list, which was Joust Pinball. Now in third place is going to be Final Fantasy Legend for the Game Boy. Now it's not actually a Final Fantasy game, it's the first game in the Saga series. They just simply changed the name outside Japan to Final Fantasy to try to cash in on that, help it sell a little bit better. But it's really a fantastic and unique RPG in its own right. Now to try to simplify the story down best I can, there's essentially a creator or a god that has constructed a giant tower, and every level or every floor of the tower is its own individual world, and it's inhabited with different creatures and different obstacles and different monsters or different punishments or different rewards. And the creator basically puts individuals in every single level here to sort of see how they react according to their surroundings. And we are at the very bottom floor of the tower, and we heard rumors that if you get to the top, you get to meet the creator and journey off into paradise. And so our goal here is to traverse the entire tower, or unlock every floor of the tower, see what all these different worlds are about, and find our way all the way to paradise. And it's just fascinating to see all the different worlds that are created within the tower, all different struggles, different characters, things like that. And also like the overarching theme of the story is very fascinating as well. And even though I think the storyline is top tier and worth playing for the game just to experience that, the gameplay is also pretty much one of a kind and very unique as well, because your party here, there are 30 different classes you can populate your party with. You can have humans, monsters, or mutants, and each one is going to level up in its own individual way, which sort of keeps you on your toes a little bit and also makes you play the game in a more strategic way. Because the human, you would level up by collecting money from battles, and you can spend that money at the shops to buy different upgrades for your character. The mutants are going to level up just simply by playing a normal RPG experience, just the usual grind here. And then the monsters is probably the most unique one, because when you kill off a different monster, a different creature in the field, you can actually eat the meat of that monster, and your monster will transform into whatever that monster was, or some sort of mutated version of it. And so you are constantly trying to figure out the best ways to upgrade your character, because sometimes you eat a meat that actually takes your character back a few levels, and you're trying to really figure out what's the best character to consume, how are you going to spend your money to upgrade your human, and how are you going to continue getting into those regular battles to keep the mutant growing as well. And so it's a very unique battle system, and I can't say I've ever played an RPG quite like it, but I really did just simply fall in love with this game. The storyline, the gameplay, fantastic RPG in every way. I'm excited to dive into the sequels to this game as well. Now in second place is going to be a Game Boy game that I played this year quite a bit, but I did not make a single video about it. I didn't talk about it a single bit. It was not part of my finishing every Game Boy and Game Boy Color list, even though it will eventually be part of that. I just simply played this game for fun and to basically battle a friend with as I went through it, and that is going to be Pokemon Blue. I played Pokemon Blue, my friend played Pokemon Red, and we basically sort of played our own adventure until we get to certain gym or agreed upon stopping points, and at that point we battle against each other, and we just sort of see who had the better overall Pokemon team. Basically play it like you would back in the old days of the original link cables and the original hardware, and we really just experienced the late 90s all over again, and it was a fantastic experience. And we're going to continue going through the Pokemon games. We'll eventually get to Gold and Silver next. I'll probably take Silver, he'll take Gold. We've not discussed that at all, but that's sort of the direction I'm hoping to go in. And then we're going to work through all the games as we go. So wouldn't be surprised if next year a Pokemon game ends up on the list again. But as far as like going back into my childhood here, reliving the glory days of the very first Pokemon, it was a blast, and I wouldn't replace it for anything. Now in first place is going to be a game I had never heard of before, I had never played before, that I think is one of the absolute best Game Boy Color games I have ever played, and that's going to be a game called Warlocked. Now Warlocked is the only real-time strategy game on the Game Boy Color or on the Game Boy, and it's basically like a Warcraft or Command & Conquer condensed down to a 2-button D-pad game, and it works absolutely fantastic. I never thought a real-time strategy game would work out as good as it does as this on the Game Boy, but as you're going through it, you can have like a battle mode and just do a traditional build each other's bases and try to attack each other, or there's like a story mode, which you like to choose your individual faction here, and you have like individual missions or like different buildings you have to attack and destroy, or different wizards that you have to rescue, and different wizards have different powers. But it's, I mean, it's just simply a real-time strategy game. You build your base up, every base gets to have different powers. You get to, you know, build your army up. If you unlock different wizards, you can put those wizards into your camp as well. That's going to have special powers to attack the other person's base. I'm telling you, like, if you are looking for a real-time strategy game and you want a handheld version of it and you want a retro feel and retro graphics, you cannot do anything better than Warlocked. I'm telling you, like, when I was playing through it, I was literally sucked in the entire time, and I would more than happy pick it up and play it again right now. It is one of the best Game Boy Color games I have ever played, and so if you had never played it, Warlocked is just a phenomenal game in every single way. But what is your #1 retro game for this past year? Did you dive into some old classics? Did you discover something new? Did you finish a game for the very first time that you've been meaning to get back to for many years? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above, and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.